Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. How's it going today? I'm Joe Bradley. Welcome to another SOMTV exclusive. This is very exciting. It's been too long. He's coming back. He's back on the platform. I'm joined again by the one and only Michael Tsarion. Michael Tsarion, how are you again?
Nice to be on. Thank you for the invitation. Everything is great. Yeah, very productive period and love the work you're doing. So thanks a lot for the invitation.
Oh, of course, my man. It feels like forever. For the audience, you must go check it out. It's on YouTube. It's on Rumble. We did an awesome first round chat, if you will, interview conversation. And that's out there. That's about 2 hours of just mind-blowing, awesome content, and I'm happy to see that it's gotten a lot of love on YouTube and whatnot. So if you have not yet seen or listened to that podcast from about late December, our first conversation, I highly encourage the audience to do so. Thanks for joining us on the platform. We appreciate it. We're going to do basically two parts to this. The second portion will be for the soldout.tv subscribers. Break it down for us, Michael. Since late December-ish until now, it's about 5 months have passed, ballpark. What's been going on in there? How have you been? And what kind of projects might be underway and all that? Break it down.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention Great Guns going and doing the legal. I saw you had law. You know, you're tackling that, which is, again, one of the big messages that I put out. So I don't see enough people doing that. You just had a guest on. Was it John Mitchell or somebody who was talking about that? So,
Rick Martin, yeah.
Sorry. What am I thinking? Yeah, Rick Martin. What a great episode that was. Hope that people pick up on that and do more. So, and that's basically, you know, what I've been advocating since the beginning of this whole thing, and even from before, many years before. That you've got to get your legal act together. You got to have at least the basic legal protections. It's actually really good for personal morale. You know, even if you maybe never step into a court, but knowing how to deal with the police and their commander back at the base and gaining respect from them to say, hey, this guy knows his shit. So, you know, you'll see a lot of changes, let alone maybe taking it to the next level with your local mayor and, you know, the legal forces. Don't let them intimidate you. They're not intimidating you. There's law libraries in prisons. There's law libraries at the end of your street. For God's sake, you know, brush up, show some gumption. This is what America was all about. You know, because you've been parchment idolatry. Yeah, there's a lot of parchment idolatry. There's a tremendous amount of misuse of the law in the corporate hands and in the state hands. But you can do something about that. So complaining about the problem is one thing. Doing something constructive about it is another. We need that more than ever. Yeah, so, you know, that's always at the core. And although we try to do a lot on slave with that, you know, that's never enough, right? We need people. So I was so thrilled to see that you had Rick on, and that's like, yes, you know, great content. Yeah, well, as content goes, I'm definitely going to step up from where we've been for the last 5-6 years. There's been some delays with some premium, but that's only because they're long series.
Sure.
Some you can get into 2 or 3 episodes, and those have been posted, but there's some that are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know, and as you well know yourself, that's not then the easiest thing to work on or to compress these giant files, you know, and then I prefer to do it in a way that I don't want to do it again down the line. Nor should I be messing with the audience. If I present something, or, you know, of, say, a project, philosophical or psychological, then I want them to have that as the absolute go-to forever. That's it. I mean, it doesn't mean you don't check out other people, because that's my point. I will put names in there, which I hope you will follow up. But these are not throwaway articles or throwaway podcasts. When you come back, you'll go, I need to listen to that again, because there's so much to digest, and there are so many other references. So there's been a certain gradual, I've used this 2-year period to do things very gradually, so they're comprehensive, encyclopedic. Yes, we've got stuff on, you know, philosophy coming out, psychology, women, psychology, Prisoners of Childhood series, which is a mammoth look into the real roots of childhood, sort of following along with my adultism book and Dragon Mother thesis. We've got more digging into, say, Freudian psychology, which is actually going to be very apropos to a lot of conditions of unhealth that people find themselves in. This extraordinary look at Freud's work that's been so discarded. He's been so abused by plunkers, and all that. But there's real gems in there that you don't find anywhere else. And he himself was so alert to the great bestsellers of the time and the new theories of the time, Oswald Spengler and Decline of the West. Freud was eating all of that up. He was very familiar with what was going on in Egypt, with the digs of Tutankhamun's tomb and all, So he was really a real true intellectual. But then what he would do, he would take these mammoth theories, Decline of the West by Spengler and Thomas Carlyle in England, and then he'd shrink it down to a little book that you could read in like 2 days, and then add something to that, which never in a million years could you have ever thought of or conceived that somebody could add to this. Shrink their work down, just some very light commentary, very easygoing writing, and then add something so monumental, that would just does blow us away and is of modernity, a very, very important theory. So I'm going to be looking into that. We're going to do something on Julian Jaynes again. I've dipped into him since, probably yourself have watched something like Origins of Evil back in LA, or, well, any of the talks that I did 10 years ago. And I was name dropping Jaynes, but you could never get into his theories that comprehensively. So now that's on the shelf as to try and do justice to that, especially in terms of, there are a lot of things we probably don't have time to get into it, but he's a great thinker. He was hinterlanded. He was a very senior person in Stanford University, cognitive scientist. He brings stuff to the table that was so, he himself was, he was a materialist. He still stuck within a sort of a orthodox mold. But the theories that he presented were absolutely, if you know how to sidelight them, they totally destroy materialism. So I pick up, from where he is at, his great ideas, combine them with a few other scholars, and then go after, because there's a neo-materialistic movement right now coming out of Berkeley. They don't let it go, you see. They're trashy, empty, banal theories. They know how to, pump adrenaline into it, just like an economy, just pumping government money into something, keep it going, Well, it's the same thing in this milieu, in this curricula. They're dead. Their pundits are dead. Their previous theories are dead, and many of the founding people within that movement jumped ship and went back to either more wholesome philosophy or even religion in many cases, and that's when the cameras were shut down. But Julian Jaynes is particularly interesting to me because if you know how to sidelight his theories and use them, unpack them deeply, they actually go against the whole doctrine of materialism. And that's probably why his colleagues and his contemporaries erased his work, debunked his work, erased it, even though he's one of them. He was a Stanford professor of psychology, what have you, psychiatry. And suddenly his ideas fell by the wayside. So there's a thesis there, and it's going to be tremendous because it talks about the origins of the voice in your head. You hear yourself talking inside your head. Well, wait a minute. How did we get there? Mm-hmm. How did we get there anthropologically? How do we get there psychologically? How do you even hear inner dialogue in your head when there's no place for that dialogue to be? So is that a metaphor? Well, if it's a metaphor, now we're into metaphor. What is a metaphor? Why do we even use metaphor every day? Well, it's as cold as ice in here. I am as hungry as a wolf. Our words. Oh, that, she looks like a stick insect, right? So we've got all these, our language is just replete with metaphor, and there's not a single scholar on this planet asking sincerely what is metaphor. And the ones who did ask it are usually your postmodern critical theorists, and their equivalent in, universities in America, and they're doing a number on you because they have picked it up, but they're using it to bolster materialistic theory. So in short, without getting into the whole palaver, I'm trying to restore that by going back to its origin to show you that you've been lied to, you're continually being lied to, and this is being used as some new adrenaline to pump into dead materialistic philosophy in the hopes that, younger people going to school, needing that PhD, they'll buy this bunk. So there's a lot of projects on the table, and that's just a little smattering. But what we want to do is now, sort of take it up to the next level of even, not talking down to the fans and the members, really fulfilling my promises of years ago that we're going to step it up until you just want to go, dude, enough already. All right, I don't want to think anymore. We're going there.
Excellent. Yeah. I mean, just to break it down real quick for the audience, unslaved.com, michaeltsarion.com. It's up on the screen. You have on unslaved.com, basically, correct me if I'm wrong, you got two tiers. You can subscribe to the podcast, and then you can do the premium tier, which I believe gets you access to a lot of these other presentations and whatnot. Yeah. And you have a redonkulous amount of work out there. I said a while ago, I was like, well, this next round with Michael Tsarion, I want to be a little more targeted on certain, and then I was scrolling through stuff and I was like, there's so much. It would take us so long, and I may not stick to that promise, because you have actually done such a great job of breaking it down for viewers of the website to find specific categories and presentations and content. And it's such a wide range of material that I highly encourage everybody to check out those websites. Yeah, your work is very extensive, and it's nice to hear that you're deciding to, I mean, you're going to crank the dial even higher, even harder, because you put out a lot of stuff, and I commend you for that. Funny thing, you mentioned, just real quick, it passed, we talked about Rick Martin and the law side of it. And I just want to say, too, I'm glad you checked that out. Thank you for checking that out. And I actually just had a recent conversation with him, and there's really, really amazing things coming to the forefront. I think we're going to have a podcast about it in the near future, but it's like you're spot on with that. I'm glad you kind of reinforced that idea of really just taking control of what you can in the way that our society is set up, in the way our government's set up, we the people, bringing it back to that grassroots activism that we all kind of just let it fall, and we let the idiots take over. And we kind of touched on this in the last conversation, but just the fact that a lot of our problems we're seeing are self-generated because we were so apathetic and clueless for, centuries, essentially. In your locale, you're in the Pacific Northwest, right? So in the last couple months and whatnot, are you seeing a little more? Are you hearing a little bit more just in your day-to-day conversations and whatnot? A little more that gives you a little more faith in the potential awakening of our country? Do you see good things happening? What's the state of play in your locale? And if you're in the state of Washington, I think a lot of folks, is it Governor Inslee? I think a lot of folks hate on him for being an NWO guy. What are your thoughts on your locale and everything you've seen in the last couple months in terms of people waking up to this stuff?
Well, not good, because of course these are bastions of the socialistic left wing. Same with Portland, Oregon, and other places like that. The mind control is unbelievable, but it's all over the world. You see the same thing. But the masses have always been like that. See, my work doesn't go out to the masses anyway. I mean, that would be ridiculous. I would have given up years ago. The only time I ever turned backwards to maybe deal with some newbies was Architects of Control. And that was a distinctly thought out idea. Hey, I will stop once in my life to pause and sort of give back to an alphabet soup, like 101 level. No sooner had I finished that show than I realized, not that was wrong to do that. The show went out great.
I love that show, by the way. I love that show. Yeah.
Right. So it kind of worked. It worked fine. It got a lot of things together there, but that was the one and only. From that moment, I realized that to waste further time going backwards for any new generation coming in, that at least me, because everybody else is doing it. So why should I? And also the work that I've got to do, some of the stuff we just spoke of a minute ago, is so bloody important because nobody else is even close to dealing with it. This is where I need to commit. So at that time, that was 2009, I could have easily decided to stop and continue to do that, to break it down. But the decision was made to not do that anymore. My one time of doing it was the Architects of Control. I loved it. It worked out great. It was a good refresher for me. And I loved the film. And then but then I realized, no, wait, just hold on a minute. Don't be doing a number 2 on that, because years will go by and you'll be stuck in 101 yourself. Mm-hmm. You've got to make sure that these things, these dusty subjects on the shelf, they're coming off. Whether there's one member, one viewer, or thousands, or what, doesn't matter. You've got to get into this a little bit, what we mentioned before. And stuff we've done on Enslaved for the 5 years has been exactly dedicated to that. So then you say, okay, right, because in order to look at all the shadow banning, I've been shadow banned before anybody even heard of the term. I was one of the first. Whole sites taken down, whole channels, whole pages on Facebook and all of that. Like up to 10 and all together, channels, profiles, you name it. And nobody gave a shit. Nobody came to my aid to say, "Oh, Michael, so sorry about that." It just happened, and people just dropped off. So I've seen the shadow banning and stuff, from way before it became popular. And not to mention other faux pas as well, other forms of attack. You wouldn't believe it. Actually, one day, maybe we'll get into that story. It's so phenomenal. I would leave the room, hearing it. It's just like, you got to be kidding. You got to be kidding. Like it would just be constant. So pushing through that then made it clear that I'm not talking to the masses. They're going to remain as ignorant as they are, just like they are in law or whatever. And sometimes you see a little bit of a change, which you do. Think of we've had just Adam Riva on. I don't know if you've had Adam on as a guest yet.
I have not, and I was gonna ask about that. Yeah, by all means, let me know about that talk.
Sure, will do, mate. I mean, I'll send you even the link to his part 4 of Devolution, Devolved. So when I see people like that, then I've got hope. I'm very practical, right? When you see what that man's put out in a video, it's really encouraging, great, and then you see another one or your work, yeah, I feel encouraged. But I need that encouragement because I know that the shadows hanging over our world, the dark wing of evil, is so utterly, active, let's say. So absolutely aware of the psychology, where we know nothing about them, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's hard to be optimistic and so on. But when I see the great work that's online, and then I see these platforms turning up that are not so censorable, that is good, because as I say, I've had this now for the best part of 20 years. So my dream was to have, uncensored platforms, and that can easily rival YouTube or easily rival Facebook. I was all for that. I was for that years ago. My God, this, look at the shadow banning, look at this deplatforming. So I'm glad when I saw that has not come to a head, and they've gone mad. The left have gone mad with that policy. And so that would maybe spark, reactions. And I'm seeing those reactions. So that's all good. Nobody can doubt that that's a bad thing, because the enemy wants us completely shut down and shut up. So anything that comes along to say, ha, 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 you lost, you didn't shut me up, is a good thing. But my vision is always to focus on my own work, not worry too much about being optimistic or pessimistic. But when it comes to things like legal empowerment, why should I have to say it to America? You guys should be already at fucking shit, Zorro. You guys should have already, don't need some Irish dude to come in and tell you to be up to speed with that. So that's disappointing. But if people go and read my, I got an article on michaeltsarion.com, just go through the articles and you'll see Constitution Con, which shows you just how you've been had. And I learned that when I came from the great Americans, the Ralph Eppersons, and the Eustace Mullins types, who informed me that their constitution had been hijacked, you see? And what have I got to do with the Constitution, right? No, but I loved the very fact that this subject existed where, people in America were analyzing why their country had been, still infiltrated by the black nobility, the black Venetians, the Black Lodge, everybody has a different name for them, the Jesuits, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. I was fascinated. Your Kevin McDonald's, so a great deal of my work, probably up to even 60%, is just nothing but honoring those names. Some are still alive, some are now gone. Some are more of the distant past, others are just recent. So my work has been dedicated very, very strongly, to keeping their messages alive, but to try and concentrate it, get the juice out of what they were talking about. That's the most important. Dismiss some of the other partisan stuff and present the key, and why I mentioned Constitution Con is because that's a classic. If somebody's not into my work and they want to see how it ties in, in that way, like an actual example, go to that article. Americans should read it. There's a follow-up article. There's a twin article, called Address to the Dead, which kind of goes back to back with that. They're on the same themes. And this is to show how the British establishment, if you want to call it that, it's really a much more ancient than even that. But the British imperial, system, they're mostly a plutocracy.
Right.
They're not even British. I mean, this is one of the weird things. They're internationalists. How they ran America. So that's a good primer, I think. There's a lot of great links there. on both those articles to show you how they got in the early days of America, how they fomented the Civil War, how they absolutely hated the concept of a free America, and have been working ever since to destroy that principle, and mostly from within. Of course, they're external enemies, but as the Oath of Allegiance says, I protect from enemies external and internal. Yep, you've got your internal enemies, and part of our job is to expose them.
How, you never know where this is going to go, but how annoyed might you get, if you get annoyed, when folks are just kind of starting to chew on some of these crumbs, breaking down the illusion in the last couple of years, and, you know, they're having these micro revelations, so to speak, because of the madness of today that we see. Woke kind of started the process of getting people thinking a little deeper, knowing all that you've known for so long about the, you know, kind of the corruption of this country. You know, it could be like perhaps you were saying the creation of the District of Columbia in the United States, and how that, you know, basically that was kind of like the tentacles of this internationalist order coming in. At least that's kind of my view on it. I mean, is it almost annoying at times to have such a kind of this weight, this enormous picture in your mind, and have the bulk of the rest of us have just be chewing on little crumbs of it? I mean, I can only fathom what it was like in your mind the last 2 decades.
It would have been impossible if I didn't just hunker down and do the work, right? And not necessarily care about whether people are getting it or not. The first website I had was all for me. It was just about me storing material. It's kind of a strange paradox to say that, because obviously any idiot knows it's online. But I didn't. I had this sort of cognitive block and didn't care. I didn't even think anybody was looking at it. This is a strange curve in my life. Necessity said that, hey, this is kind of good, because I had, you know, big, thick folders. They were handwritten by pen, stacks of other notebooks written by pen. This was getting, you know, crap. So, and then also I needed to go through all of that material and then synthesize that again, and then synthesize that again. Well, the computer became important and the net became important because I could do that. I wanted to shrink all of that writing because some of it was just garbage, right? You knew that about 50% works here. The rest is, who wrote? Did I write that shit? Did I believe that shit? You know, and this is going on right to today. You do this filtration. So the website, the first one, Taroscopes.com, originally was my original site, and all of the pages on that were that. It was the attempt to break down, synthesize, chemically break down until, you know, you were left with some really good stuff. And it was just like that, doing it from your own home or doing it from your office. Of course, people are reading it. So then finally, when that really got into my head, wasn't until maybe the Atlantis book finally came out, you know, and then it was pirated right away. So of course now you're really conscious in a bad way of the net, the dark side of the net. In fact, it was a draft that was pirated. So what a mess, right? So that was a bit of a shocker. And other things got pirated later as well. And so there was a bit of a shocker, you know, all your hard work gone for nothing, and all this dedication and the jobs you've let go and the shoestring you're living on. And now they're even fucking nicking. You know, they won't even you can't even make a dime out of this extraordinary lifetime of research. You know, that's not very pleasant. So as you say, but even despite those blocks, the idea was to continue regardless, you know, and that's all I've done. I've just tunnel visioned on it. And that's what keeps you going, because if your work is very sincere, it takes up so much of your time to produce. And then there's all these technical changes in the world. You know, I was doing it before Google, then Google Video come along, then come YouTube, you know, much, much later. So you have to adapt. And some people can't. You know well yourself. You see some videos from the past and they're abominably filmed and they're abominably audio, and you find it even today. I can point you to groups today, 21, 22, whose videos look like they're on dial-up, or they've just come in, you know, and they're awful. Good content, but you can't even hear it, or they've made no attempt to light the thing, or they've made no attempt to put a mic up or anything. Still to this day, that's how pathetic, you know, it is. So back then it was pathetic, but at least you were in at the beginning of something. And if there were some crappy dial-up calls, well, that was all there was. So, you know, you're honing your skill. So I would go on phone calls where I'm literally going hoarse, yelling down the phone, you know. So you have all these handicaps. But like anything in this world, if it's in an initiatory stage, nascent stage, you just adapt to the tools that are at hand, and you try to do the best that you can, and you hope that God, tomorrow it'll be a better bandwidth, or it'll be better this, and finally, it is. And so as long as you're moving with it, don't you see that can feel a feeling of triumph when you have a better website? Hey, and you got, got some YouTube video. So although there's downs, or there's technical changes that present your work in a nicer way, as long as you can aesthetically put it there, and so there seems a certain element of creativity. It's not all doom and gloom. There's the creative aspect, there's the writing aspect. You're perfecting writing, coming from me being completely ignorant up to at least, putting something up. So there's these little mini triumphs, and that's what I try to focus on, is the victories amid all the other nonsense, and I think that's healthy for anyone starting up. It's just focus on that. Focus on the little triumphs. Make sure you really focus on them, and it'll mitigate against all the other backlashes of the whatever group doesn't like you.
Absolutely, it's been such a wild growth in technology, expansion in technology, and some of these things get cheaper for the average person to build in their home studio. You can see where it's going. It's going a very exciting place. Speaking of some of the let's say older, grainier footage out there, there are a couple of videos of you being introduced by Jordan Maxwell, at different venues and whatnot, as you shared certain speaking venues. I was curious, since he has passed away recently, if I could just pick your brain a little bit about, being in touch with him, kind of working with him in that scene. I don't know what you might call it, the alternative, the tip of the spear in the earlier days of the alternative community. And he's one of the great minds that, we point people toward and whatnot, as are you. What was that like, working with him? Did you get to work with him? And, what are your thoughts on his story and whatnot?
Yeah, it's a long story. I didn't get in touch with him until about 98. Because I didn't get into this, I didn't start publicly doing anything myself till 98. I resisted it and resisted and resisted it. But I would go to these conferences and I'd read all the works of these people. In about 97, 98, I came across the work of David Icke. As I'm reading his book, I barely have read the first book or whatever, and he's in town. He's coming to San Mateo, which is just south of San Francisco, to the Marriott Hotel. So me and a friend go down there to see him, greet him. And also on the back of his book, this book I was reading, he had an endorsement from a philosopher called Sir George Trevelyan, who happened to be our family patron, one of the family patrons, back in the 70s. So I knew that name. And he was from a group called the Rican Trust. And he seemed to be endorsing David Icke. And I thought, holy shit, Sir George. I mean, that's a heck of endorsement. So I thought we'd have that in common, right? So we go up there it wasn't far. It was like literally 10 minutes drive from where I lived at the time. I lived in Redwood City, which is just really close to San Mateo. So we go to David's talk. It was reasonably, filled. It was just a hotel sort of speaking area, maybe 75 people max turned up. Of course, loved the talk and everything. And then David was, took a break, and he was coming from his room up back to where the conference was. And I just stopped him. I said, oh, by the way, don't want to bug you or anything like, this is my friend, and I'm Michael Tsarion. And I noticed, David, that you knew Sir George Trevelyan. And we got talking from that. And then he said, and I said, oh, by the way, I'm trying to get hold of Jordan Maxwell, because I do a lot of the subjects he does. So I don't want him finding about some Irish punk out there, doing it solo. He goes, oh, yeah, go to my friends at the back, and they'll give you his current number. So I got Jordan's number, from the David Icke people. And then went home and hand trembling, oh, fuck. I hate this kind of shit, So I'm dialing up. I didn't know that, at the time that Jordan has a bunch of 1-900 lines, and he's on the phone all the bloody time. This is even before cell phones. Nothing to worry about. He gets calls from all over the world, right? But I'm sitting there in my little hovel, shaking, oh, shit, stammering away and everything like that. So, and the basic point was, I wasn't going to waste this time. I just said, look, my name is Michael Tsarion. I'm from Ireland. I've just arrived. I'm doing astrotheology. I've studied the whole collected works of, Gerald Massey and Alfred Churchward and people like that. I just wanted you to know my name, so that I have told you that you don't hear from one of your people. Hey, there's some Irish bastard out there fucking ripping you off because I'm pathologically into citation. Like, you know, I would literally go berserko if that happened. So, and he goes, oh, and he starts chatting away. He could give a fuck about that, right? And he just, oh, Gerald Massey. And then, you know, and I said, yeah, I particularly liked your Matrix of Power. You know, I particularly like, you know, and so we start talking, became friends right away. He's very, very gregarious and very, very accommodating and no stay off the grass, punk, right? You know, nonsense at all. So I find him to be, oh my God, so easygoing. And he goes, oh, actually, I'm going to be up there next year where you are. Or maybe even before. And I said, what, to the Marriott? He goes, yeah, I think so. They're putting something on. And they did. They were. So the next thing I know, it's like, oh my God. So me and a friend went to this conference that turned out, I think, to be in the same hotel, in the same town, you know, and met Jordan personally. And we had arranged immediately to do an after, you know, conference dinner, a big spectacular at a local restaurant. And he came, and there was about 25 people there, you know. I paid for everything, and they had a big meal. And he just went on and on, you know, talking about his story, which some things I knew and some things I didn't. But to meet the man and how he could command an audience was really brilliant. Instead of being tired and gloomy, because I just did a conference, folks, I'm not going out. No, he just loved the attention. He could command. And by the way, I think other people at the other tables were like, when he went into his UFO story and, you know, in Arizona, other people were like, you know, they were pretending they're talking to each other, but you could see them going, what's he talking about? Aliens? Man, it was just absolutely extraordinary. So then, you know, it built from there, and a lot of sharing, a lot of collaboration, I was thinking one time of going down to LA to actually help him film everything, you know, like be there, go, dude, is any of this written down or done? He goes, no, because all the videos that he had made were stolen by the guy who helped him. He had nothing but a history of theft and piracy and stabbing in the back and all of that. And also he also faulted the fact that in any kind of thing that we're doing right now, the host knew fuck all. So he loved me because he said, if you could be the person who's asking me the questions, shit. So we always did have that on the back burner that we'd do, you know, but in the end, it just didn't work. So I had to carry on doing my own Origins and Oracle series, always on my own, never getting a chance. We visited him many times down in LA, but every time there's some bollocks taking place, either in his life or mine, and we never quite got to, you know, collaborate. But, you know, we did the next best thing, and we'd meet several times a year at the conferences and go over. And we do have a lot of footage of him. We were thinking of making Architects 2, and before the whole premise of that changed, we had loads of interviews from lots of people, and he was one of them, you know. And we had, so I've got quite rare footage, actually, if you come to really think about it, of Ralph Epperson and, you know, Stan Monteith and, you know, Russell Means. And my God, who's in there? There's a lot of footage that's never been used, never been brought to light, you know. So yeah, it went on like that. And then because I traveled around a lot, that would be probably the only time I ever got to see him was at these conferences. But I was just glad that he would never then find out from anybody else that there's some guy writing books out there and doing astrotheology. You know, so every book I wrote, every DVD, every tape was sent to him by mail, saying, there's my latest production, Jordan. You know, so he had it on his shelf. There could never be. And then finally, one of the big final things that happened is I did a special Coast to Coast. Mm-hmm. I talked to the producers there and said, I don't think this guy's been honored enough. Can I come on and do something like a mini one of the things we were planning? If it can only be an hour, then it'll be at least me asking questions and Jordan there, you know. And they thought that was a good idea. So there in the archive of Coast to Coast is me and Jordan doing our thing, you know. And that was basically the last then real get together we had. Again, just to try and honor the man for everything he'd done for me up until that point. Just to have that on record with people I didn't think really had honored him enough. To tell you the truth, you know.
Amen. No, he's one of the giants, and it's one of those weird things where when he passed away, I actually was like, man, it was like kind of like an uncle passed away or something. I actually felt something pretty heavy because, you know, you always hear when a celeb passes away, right? There's like the outcry and all this, and I'm always making fun of that, but then. when Jordan passed away, it was like, damn, man, we lost a giant. And it's wild too, because he saw so much in his time, and it's like, what is he not going to see? What the hell could be coming around the corner? Maybe he got out just in time. Who knows?
he maybe already knew quite a lot,
Could be.
Yeah. In 2098, in 1998, when I was at this just Whole Life Expo or something, I met Victoria Jack again and Robert Perella, who had been organizing that talk that I told you that Jordan had been at in the Marriott. And they stopped me. I didn't really remember who they were. Maybe as much as a year, or if it wasn't a full year, it was several months. And it's not, I'm getting the dates wrong. It was 2000, right? So it was a little bit after I'd met Jordan, or called him on the phone anyway. And this period I just talked about meeting David, then getting the number, then meeting Jordan. So they had put this conference on years later. It must have been years later. It's kind of foggy, but they go, "Hi, Michael." And I'm, "Who the fuck are you?" Right? It's like, well, yeah. And we're just walking there with a friend, as part, I didn't have a booth or anything. I wasn't giving a talk. It was just me, right? And they stopped me, and I saw, and I vaguely recognized them. And they're the people. And the next thing I know they're saying to me is, "Do you want to come and talk at our conference?" I go, "Talk at your conference? What fucking conference?" So they tell me, it became it was the UFO Expo by this time in California. This is the lady who runs it. And I was like shocked, but I vaguely, so they must be connected. And then they start telling me all about, how they want me to do my Atlantis theories. What Atlantis theories? Well, meeting them was very strange, because although I had attended one conference, David Icke and then the Jordan Maxwell one, I'm not familiar with the whole gig. And I really can't remember who these people are. And worse, they're talking to me about stuff I've never done, have no writings on it. I don't have any web presence. There's no website. There's no videos. There's nothing. And so although I never really got ever, till this day, a coherent answer of what on earth was that all about, I find myself saying, "Yeah, okay." And to do this September talk, I have to go to holiday in Sweden during, maybe a couple of weeks before. So I'm in a panic getting that stuff together. But then later, as sanity kind of returned or whatever, I have since thought it must be Jordan who was the one who nudged him toward me. And that means he must have liked my material, or we had this conversation, which I just can't remember, one day at some table or on the phone about Atlantis, and he bookmarked. I have to believe you me, I have never been able to fathom. But my guess is that because I went with Jordan, right, was his chaperone that time, he came up, and then the dinner and something like that, and my memory being like a sieve. So, okay, this just go along with it. Just say, yeah, I can do that. Sure, no problem. What? Right? And so what the hell? And that first talk in the Bay Area at the UFO Expo was without PowerPoint. It was just a talk with some notes. And, that was the beginning of it all. And it went down real well. Richard Hoagland was sitting in the front row. Just me, "Oh, frickin' brilliant. That's just great." Right? They're going to laugh themselves sick. They're going to kill themselves laughing over this. But they weren't, because this Irish connection, see, Zachariah Sitchin had brought in the Sumerian connection, your normal fare of sort of, ancient aliens, before ancient aliens. These were the ones way back in the 70s and 80s. We are William Shatner's and Leonard Nimoy's and, George Kennedy's and all. They focused on what? New Mexico, right? What am I thinking of? The ruins down there. Huh?
Roswell?
Santa Fe, the ancient Anasazi ruins. All those shows feature that, or something along the lines of, say, the San Andreas Belt. Casa de Rinconada is the thing I'm thinking about in New Mexico. All of that fair. But nobody had ever brought in Ireland. What the hell has Ireland got to do with UFOs? And, you see plenty of them on a Friday night. Yeah, plenty of UFOs are coming out of the pub. But who had ever seriously asked a question about the megalithic ruins there? So I have no idea. Something I said must have triggered somebody. My guess is Jordan, and it's his promotion. See, because remember, you have to have a contact, don't you? So he said, that kid, get him, and bloody hell, the next thing I know, there they are. So it was a very odd year, very, very odd. And then the next year, they don't let you do two of the same. So I couldn't do the following year's UFO Expo because I've been there before. But Conspiracy Con was in May. And they said, oh, yeah, because, you could do that one because those guys who created all of these festivals live together. They're friends. So Brian Hall said, okay, you can't do the UFO Expo. That's our rule. But hey, I'm putting on my Conspiracy Con. And I turned him down the first time. And I think it was the second one I ended up going to. Because another thing about the David Icke issue was that after meeting him and getting his own address in London, I start sending him reams and reams of material. So I was one of the advisors. What do you call it? I was not an advisor. I was one of the contributors to his book, starting with The Biggest Secret and Children of the Matrix. So a lot of my work is in there. All his stuff about the Phoenicians and the Sumerians, Semiramis, all of that stuff that turned up. That's my suggestions to him. And other stuff in The Biggest Secret. Can't actually remember what it was, but probably, I know, symbolism. It was all about the symbolism of Live Aid. And I made tape after tape after tape after tape. These are long 90-minute tapes. I sent multiple of those. And later on, he told me, and Iam, who's the lady who really helped him in the early days to produce them. It's a good friend of mine as well. She admitted that they were listening to those every night. And they couldn't wait to get back to their hotel rooms to put Tsarion stuff on, to listen to. And they'd listen to it in the car. They listened to it in their van as they traveled around the different parts of parts of England doing David Icke conferences. They would listen to my stuff and read all the material I sent. L.A. Waddell, that's another one. L.A. Waddell, Professor L.A. Waddell. I sent them lots and lots of information on that. I mean, way too much stuff. But I told him that I didn't want my name mentioned. So he just calls me his Irish friend in the book, right? Whose mother was a clairvoyant. That's all you get. And that's all I wanted. And this ties into the story I was telling you about Conspiracy Con, because I turned Brian Hall down the first year. David had been talking there, and I totally backing up that promise that I did not want to be known, or I just wanted to stay completely in the background. I actually turned down being at the first one. I think the first Conspiracy Con was meant to have myself as the actual, what do you call those guys? I can't even remember the word, like the guy on stage with the mic, introducing everybody else,
sure.
whatever you call those guys.
Host.
Yeah, host, exactly. And I said, no. So it took a whole year to get the confidence up to say, well, what the hell? David's been kind enough to put me in his books. I think I can do a few slides on my own. And so by that time, PowerPoint came up. You and I were just talking earlier about the need of that technology and how it's also meeting a need. And I got that from a guy called Nazim Haramein, right? You may have had him on the show, Nazim.
Never had him on the show. Oh my gosh, that'd be awesome. But yeah, followed his work, amazing work.
Yeah. Well, he was a friend, and he had done a conference, and he had used PowerPoint. And actually, this conference he did was around the corner from where I lived. You could just walk to this venue, right? And it was run by a lovely man called Charles Grotsky, again, another big, helper in my early life to give me confidence and stability. And he was about to close this place. This was actually one very close to the ending of this venue, which was really lamented in the area. But Nazim came, and he's using this weird PowerPoint display. And at the end, I went up and said, what is that? And he goes, oh, you should have it on your own computer. It's PowerPoint, or a version of PowerPoint. You should have that on your own computer. I went, really? And he goes, yeah, it's free. So he was the one who encouraged me to use it. And sure enough, PowerPoint was on the lap, was on the software, right? So I just get in there and quickly learn how to use it and start using it from that era onwards. So not the first conference. You can always tell the first conference because there's no PowerPoint. It's just me babbling away, right? But the second conference and the third and the fourth, all of these within that year or the next year from 2000, featured these slides. Now, there's a couple of TV programs that I did before that feature slides, but that's no PowerPoint. That's me bringing individual pictures to them. Oh. And then they ran it through some technology that they had, rather cheaply. I mean, it was good, but again, no major PowerPoint. This was all something I learned after 2000. And by God, did it really help me. But one of the downsides was that they didn't give you much notice. So, and I'm a person who doesn't like to do the same show twice. So when you get a hit, they get a phone call, say, hey, we do have room for you. You can come to the conference if you want. Oh, my shit. Two things happen. One is that I have to come up with a new concept because I'll never do the same talk twice. And so I have to come up with something new. And that means hitting them up to get their permission to do something that maybe they've never had before. This was the case with subversive symbolism. Do you know it took them 6 to 9 months to decide whether they wanted to host that?
Wow.
We're talking early days here, right? If it's not chemtrails or, Illuminati, they don't want to know. So I'm the one who introduces, no, there is a connection. And then when I literally schooled them and said, no, you don't understand. This is about your material, but it's in this thing about, our world, our venue, the billboards and the magazines. And they took about 6-9 months. And I got a call from Brown Hall finally going, yeah, remember that thing you talked about, left with me? Yeah, I think you might do it. It might be okay. I went, Jesus. But now he's calling so late that I don't have time to prepare the slides. I want to do something well. So we should have called me a month ago or 2 months ago. So the second problem was the crunch. So I'm getting on stage, bleary-eyed, no sleep for over 28 to 48 hours. I'm in the hotel room fixing the slideshow. I'm at the dinner table in the restaurant in the morning in the hotel fixing the slides, sometimes like 25, 50%. And I was doing that right up until 2011. In 2011 in Australia, I have no sleep the night before. The conference starts at 10 in the morning. It's a 7-hour nonstop conference. And I'm at the table in the morning, sucking my breakfast in and trying to organize really basically also about 50% of the slide organization. So the nightmare of it, these crunches where they don't give you enough time, tech goes wrong, and then you're winging it, and there's the coach, may have errors in it, slides, like quotes from the Bible, maybe, wrong. It's Isaiah when I meant Ezekiel. Oh, shit. So you get a few of those, like everybody does, right? But it was a real fly by the seat of your pants thing. But I'm not to blame. I'm happy that they've invited me. My God, I'm getting my minute on stage. But the timing was literally, hours before, and you're just like rushing and panicking. And that's not a good headspace to be in when you're, presenting a thing like this. I managed it. I got through it. But, I would have wanted for a lot more prep time, especially with the work I've got. There's so much to it. As you said earlier, there's so many connecting parts, not just Celtic mythology, something off the top of my head. No, you're bringing it in with the whole story of conspiracy, and you want to do it right. And so those early conferences, until you have the time yourself to do better, yeah, it can be really, stressful, and it was.
Yeah, those it's like the Wild West of the alternative movement, and then it became way more modernized and whatnot. What strikes me there is what you're saying about if it was chemtrails or Illuminati, it's kind of like, yeah, fine, but you're bringing the words, the terms, the symbols in there, and they got to debate whether that's allowed. Very interesting, because when you think about, at least when I kind of think about the awakening process for people, you do start with some of these more like offshoot type of ancillary type conspiracy theories and whatnot, and this whistleblower over here, and it's like, well, that's kind of crazy on its own, and then it does attach to this. Oh, it was funded by this. Hold on, what do these guys think? And you do create that spider web. And then you start to see the big picture. And then there's a critical point in there where you get into the words, the terms, the symbols, and you do start to realize that you're in a matrix, basically. You're in almost a coded reality of, I could argue. Your work's pretty... and same with Jordan Maxwell, is pretty earth-shaking, because you're going right to those symbols, the origins of words, terms, and everything that we're seeing today that's basically taken form and created this prison. So it's kind of like Neo in the Matrix, when all of a sudden he's actually seeing this green code everywhere. That is a good metaphor for what it may be like for someone uncovering your work on the subversive use of sacred symbols. Speaking on that note, I noticed that you did this massive podcast recently with David Whitehead on the Serpent Symbolism. Looks like it came out right after all of this Brian Ardis stuff came out with how, and I'm just paraphrasing, summarizing, and I encourage people to go check it out. But with the fact that there might be king cobra venom in some of these bioweapons, there's all kinds of wild sounding research coming out, as wild sounding as it might be. There seems to be a lot of evidence to back it up. If you don't mind me shifting gears to that for a sec, what's your overall take on the serpent symbolism that has gone into kind of today's world? You have by far been one of the most intriguing voices and researchers that I've found in this realm, because there's a lot of stuff out there about serpents and things underground, and the history that we have, and snake people in various parts of the planet. I'm just curious, your take, does any of that tie into what Brian Artis and others are bringing to the table here? I know it's shifting gears a little bit, but it all goes into what we commonly see on the caduceus, right? What we see when we go to the hospital, there's snakes everywhere, right? So can you break that down for our audience, kind of the serpent symbolism?
Oh, yeah, it's all over the place. Obviously, the most obvious is the caduceus, but sometimes it's on a shield, like blue shield.
Yes.
We have green shield. That's another equally important symbol. And I went into this in an article that they can find on the Michael Tsarion article site, on my site under articles called By Shield and Sword, or By Sword and Shield, to show that that's another one that's been staring us in the face. But of course it does. The ancient hieroglyph for woman was snake, right? So every time in ancient hieroglyphs in Egypt that they wanted to represent woman, they put a snake. I mean, stop, right? So that tells you a lot, because in ancient times, woman was the herbalist. Woman was the apothecary. Woman was the one who observed insects and, reptiles and snakes to see what kind of fluids they could extract. Because if you're going to extract it from a plant, say a nettle, right, or a belladonna. So in ancient times, this has not been brought out. No wonder. But women were the great poisoners, right? They were the ones who were experts in what poison did what to what organ, and how fucking bat crazy they could make you. They want to kill a king. You just head on down to the local witch, right? And so it wasn't a local witch; it was a witchery. It was a cult, a female Illuminati. You can give them any term you want. And so these were the people who then knew about the poisons and what doses, and it takes centuries. And so even the feminist writers that I've read that reveal this information, they are telling you absolutely that horticulture, agriculture, all of these things, that's why we even have the word geometry, measure of the earth, geomancy, right? It was women who divided the land, measured the heavens, created the cubits, and the way that land was, now we have acres and hectares, right? But in the early days, those divisions of any land were based in demarcations abstracted from up in the heavens, loosely the cubit, and then they had the royal cubit. So, the women were focused on the land. That's what you can see when you get goddesses like Demeter and Ceres and a whole host of others. It's very elaborate, actually. There's sticks involved, these time sticks and measuring sticks. Then they had their obvious ones where it was to do with their own menstrual cycle, another kind of calendar. And that was what's off limits to whenever there's blood ceremonies of any kind, it'll always be the priest that will be actually drinking the blood. And even their drinking of it is a goddess situation. They're doing it as the acolyte of the goddess, or their clothes, they'll be dressed as a female when they're doing it, because it's really taboo. It's not men's cults who drink the blood. Right? There is such a thing as blood sacrifice and blood ritual, but it's all coming from the female world. So if you happen to read in the Bible about it, just realize that's a vestige from a whole other cult that really isn't even a male cult. So Levites and all that, and if it does exist, they've abstracted it from a very shadowy cult that dealt in the blood sacrifices, the killing of children, methodically. This was their temples, and somehow that got abstracted. Somehow male cults might have borrowed that, or brought in a priestess that's not actually mentioned in the Bible, that's scrubbed, but it's definitely a female rite. This all began with the rites began because there was a observation for thousands of years of the constellations, especially particular extraordinary aspects with Venus. They're a Venus cult. Islam is a Venus cult. That's why you see the sign of Venus. People think it's a crescent moon. It's not a crescent moon. It's a sign of Venus, and they make a green flag to let you know it's also Venus. That's Lucifer, because Lucifer is nothing evil. It's just this. It's the cultic. It's an euphemism for the female cults and all of anything that they were studying, purveying, and teaching. So they then knew how to process these ointments. We'll get back to the serpent in a minute, but they knew how to process this opiates to send you out of your goddamn skull, or to heal. They were also the apothecaries. Now, when the Templars and their people and their wives, right, there was queens of Jerusalem as much as there was kings of Jerusalem. So when the Knights Templar went out to the Middle East and their wives came with them, all of these cults got to know each other. And finally, to cut a long story short, they embodied a lot of these Eastern ways. And that comes to bear when you know the kind of groups that they were involved with. There was about 5 or 6, and one of them was the Mercs. It's really just Italian merchants, the filthy rich Black Venetians, underworld. These are the people who run all the insurance companies and banks. And did so for years. They're also the pirates that use the skull and bones. So the skull and bones is found on poison.
Yeah.
See the connection? Yeah. The serpent, though, is more coming out of the Mercs, who set themselves up as the medics through the Knights Hospitallers. So when these Templars were over there, the Hospitallers were over there just a bit before, and they've been busy bees, because they're not only treating sick, leprous people who are coming in, but they're liaising with whatever passed for a medical profession in a hospital before they got there. They just organized it. But everybody knows today, you go to the bazaars of India, the bazaars of the East, and you see these people who are mendicants. Well, yeah, that and more in the Arabic world. So that these Hospitallers had great connections with the Amalfi, with the Italian merchants, with the Persian Magi. This would be Sol Invictus cults and Mithraic cults. So they had a great treasure house that they abstracted. And part of that was exactly what we're talking about. Poisons, deadly poisons, a knowledge of what snake will do what if it bites you and how many seconds you've got to live, etc. Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. None of this knowledge that Dr. Artis is talking about is anything new. So that was all my contribution was, is to say, look, it's an old game. This is how the princes this is how the Duke got rid of his brothers. This is how a king wiped out his enemies. It's been going on for centuries. The symbolism then expands, like I say, in Sword and Shield. It's more than just that. Of course, serpent means woman, but serpent also means underground knowledge, esoteric knowledge, stages of initiation, ritual in those initiations, because these Masonic groups that entered America long before the Puritans got there, Masonry was already here. In fact, if you read the right people, Masonry was here hundreds of years before, thousands of years before. When you go to the Mexicos and you can see pictures of the Inca and the Aztecs wearing Masonic garb. I mean, it's all there, for people to connect the dots. And I'm sure the Native American Indians were very, very close to this. So this tradition then of poisoning your enemies, of using snake venom, all of that, is such an old trait. And the fact that they have the serpent on the medical profession is a dead giveaway that it's all based on it. Like, for instance, the high blood pressure medicine, like lipocaine or whatever the hell it's called, lipocaine, but cane is serpent. So the very medicine is actually, will have these etymologies within it if you know where to look. But they're actually made out of snake venom, and that's just one I can think of. There's lots of others. So, yeah, the idea that the opiate, that the idea of, in fact, if people watch the whole 6-7 hours female Illuminati program, that's where we extrapolate this whole thing about women cults. I'm doing a pretty bad job here, but I went through it methodically in that to show you how soma, elixir, all sorts of healing, but also hallucinogenic, psychotropic drugs that were used in initiation were first used by women thousands of years before any man was ever involved in it later on as things weakened. And if any man before that was involved in these rituals, it was the child of the goddess. It was a very special child born from one of the priestesses, probably the mother goddess herself, or the queen that embodied that energy. Her child would have been privy to it. That's where Jesus Christ comes from, and all the serpent symbolism. Be as wise as serpents, be as cunning as serpents and wise as doves, or whatever it is, right? That serpent imagery is still there. But this comes from goddess worship and goddess worship only. The Jews had it through Asherah, right? The consort of Jehovah. But again, that was scrubbed. So yeah, it's a hell of a story, my God. Ophiolatry, it's often called. Ophiolatry. And many medicines have oaf. You know, or again, as I said, other allusions to the serpent. Like Coke and Pepsi have the wave, that wave or an eye, that weird looking eye. That's an eye of the serpent.
Yeah.
And when you bust one open, you're drinking serpent piss. It's all connected to cults. You know, we could go into that. I've done that a lot. The black, you know, the black piss of the serpent, you're imbibing it. It's all full of that symbolism because it's made by people who are part of these occult societies and having a great laugh at your expense.
So one obvious layer to that, of course, is the fact that this represents the underground knowledge, like you said, and of course the poisons, the elixirs, so much hidden knowledge that the average person is never gonna come to find out for themselves, other than the hard way per se. Another thought that comes to mind when we talk about that is, okay, so it's pretty evil. It sounds like an evil plot, right? It appears to be extremely evil, because they're putting these symbols out there in places where they kill you, right? So let's take these hospitals. There's clearly a genocidal operation going on. They're not advertising, we need to kill everyone. Might as well be, if you ask me. But clearly they've set up a system now where the mind-controlled individual goes to the very place that's filled with the very symbols. You cross the threshold. Then there's X amount of what appear to be ritualistic actions that transpire, and that person is killed. And, you know, we've been watching it happen the last 2 years straight. And it's like, some people get pissed about it. There seems to not be enough outrage about it. You know, the remdesivir thing, all of this stuff points to a sickly, evil agenda in which this looks like ritual murder. Does that mean that it's not? Are you of the theory that it's not just about population control, more so than a very specific way that this must take place in order for them to gain power? Of course, the concept of loosh comes to mind. I hear people use that term. The idea that there's something gaining sustenance from this exact, I guess you'd say, the logistics of this death plan, this death ritual, mass global death ritual. Because it's one thing if just a bunch of bad people and they're like kind of giving each other a wink here and there through their symbols, right? That's one thing. And yeah, oh, you're in the cult too. Okay, cool. Look, there's our symbol. But there must be an extra dimensional layer involved here. Does that make sense? Am I talking out my ass? What are your thoughts on that?
No, well, see, as I wrote in the Atlantis book, there has been a very, very many decades, many centuries, many millennium ritual going on. It's part of the way they think. They don't think of themselves as evil, by the way. They created us so they can destroy us anytime they want. There was a need for the masses, you know, to till the land and conquer the world at the time when resources were limited, because in my Atlantis book, I explained why they needed all of these minerals and ores. They had to rebuild technology. It's a long story. But in order to do that, you need your worker ants. The worker ants are just worker ants, though. You can get rid of them anytime you want after everything's been assembled and most of the infrastructure has been built, right? That's what's been going on since the 15th century, 16th century. But like in the Atlantis DVD, which was produced in came out in 2006, but it took years of work before that. I point out the Genentechs, people can watch the last hour of the Atlantis video DVD. It's on Unslaved. It'll be reminded of how much I warned that your Louis Pasteur's and your what the hell is the name of the guy? It's so horrible a being, I can't even remember his name, right? The ones who created the vaccinations originally. So these people were up to mass genocide. It was mentioned then. And it's something that I tried to advise the world upon at that time. Your Jenner, Jenner, who made the vaccines, right, and all of that. So ritual death is hugely part of it, and as are many other things, actually, right, going on. When I mentioned that lipocaine or whatever it's called, the ritual is because the symbol on it is communicating to you, or the etymology in the name. So I gave one example back there, but any of these names, it's the name in Latin or in some occult language, or again, reversed maybe to work on your, like Pepsi. Pepsi is a classic example. So there's that. And so you're now part of the ritual because they've told you through that symbol. That's not some corporate symbolism, the double cross of Lorraine or the Nike or Adidas symbols. They're all pertaining to something sacred. And that means, and if you pick it up, you're part of the ritual. That's your signature. Go, yep, you can chop my neck anytime you're ready. Just give me a lot of sweet stuff before. Like, any last requests? Yeah, give me a cigarette. No problem. And it amounts to the same thing. You want a chick? You want some TV? You want to stand on your head? The condemned cell? You can order any slap up dinner you want, booze, hey, we're going to be good to you before you die. Basically, that's what the human race has been treated. And so then in this group are Malthusians who have wanted to wipe us out long ago. I've been mentioning this from the beginning of my work, but they've been suspended by another group who goes, no, we need them. There's groups that wanted it to be cloned, but there was limitations in that. You see, if they want to send us out of this planet, they're going to need real human beings to operate the machines. So they've stopped the plan to wipe us all out long ago because we're needed. We're needed. We're simply needed, but we're not all needed, right? And it's getting worse. So they go, okay, well, what we're going to, you can't just line them up and kill them. So you continue the ritual. You continue the ritual of making them diseased. But diseased also involves depression, weight gain. I don't like living. I'm suicidal. I'm depressed. You see, so the ritual goes on to make you, little old you, sitting there going, it's all meaningless. I have no meaning in life. I'm just a worker, right? So the despair goes into what is called the earth grid. It's a big dodecahedron that exists around the earth, and they got the keys to it. They know how it works. It's a natural thing. It's purely organic. But where they put our cities and where they placed things within the city is to conduct life force. Yeah. So believe you me, when you were citing those movies and all, they are written by people who are desperately trying to tell you something, but it mostly falls on dead ears. And I've been trying to say it, and mostly it falls on dead ears. You are never part of the ritual until you in some way walk over the door, sign on the dotted line, as it were, go to it's why it's a white ritual. You're born in white and you die in black. And it's the same forces that are doing it to you. They know all about it, right? And this has astrological, but what it all boils down to is really our lack of knowledge about the ritual elements. Once you become aware that this is to do with initiations, mass ritual, and so on, you're on to it, and as painful as that is for a lot of people to see, that's why people, when they were critiquing my work, want to point out all of these small nothings and make a big noise about it rather than the content. Yeah, because the content is shaking you to your fucking core, you beta bastards. Right? So you'd rather pay spelled mistake. Sure, he spells his own name wrong. Look at that. And all of this jive, because that's deflective. That's what you do when you're in a state of panic over the truth coming in. Jordan always used to say, if I shine a light on you in the morning, what's the first thing you do? Roll over. And you might even reach out and smash the light. Go, get that out of my eyes. Right. So that's what we've been putting up with for years and years and years. You're right. Why continue? It's not a pleasant thing to do. But if you have the real spirit of humanity at stake, that you're serving truth, not mankind. There's a big difference in serving truth and serving people. It's truth against the world. And hopefully as a byproduct of that, you'll take down these motherfuckers, so that their ritual can't go on and people are a little bit more savvy. And then, maybe they go towards homeopathy, or there's plenty of other options. Like we're talking here about the law earlier.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's such a huge picture. It's good versus evil. It's in everybody's grill now, and the choice has never been more apparent. And I'm not going to say it's the red pill, the blue pill. It's just straight up courage, love versus the fear, the propaganda, the lostness of it all. In just a few minutes here, because I'm getting this warning again here, the idea of freedom. and I just kind of want to have you end on this in a few minutes here. Just this idea of freedom itself. When you look at the history of America, America's known as the land of the free. We mentioned in the last talk, it's like couldn't be further from the truth. Sometimes it feels. Where does freedom begin, and why is it critical at this time that we all understand that? Because it seems to me we have an idea of freedom that's so outdated. What does freedom mean to you, and where does it begin?
Yeah, it's all a matter of attitude. I don't think populations can ever be free. It'll be just degrees of liberty, mostly violated again. And also, don't you see that the very culture itself and the collective is an obscenity. It's about people who don't want to be free. That's why they get into the collective. Wherever you gather, it's going to be a collective. Right away, you don't have freedom. So you have to have a hierarchy. Somebody to tell you what to do in the wintertime, somebody to tell you to do if there's enemies at the gates. And so that's where the illusion is. So just like it is with compassion, forgiveness, it's all about the self. It's forgiving you for the deeds you've done against the self that are bad. And it's the same thing with freedom. It's a gift that you award yourself when you have attunement intellectually and emotionally and so on. Your emotional intelligence is up, your intellectual savvy is up, and also when your psychic sovereignty is working at a very, very high pace. That then is a big encyclopedia. That's not just one thing. It doesn't just mean physical health. It means learning about disease. It's not just about emotional intelligence. It's about learning about all the things that compromise that intelligence. So there's a deconstructive aspect as well. It's not just about intellect. It's finding out, why didn't I know that before? Why do I have the resistance to it? Why, what makes the other person who conveyed that information to me, why are they so different? You see, so it makes a lot of things. Now we are doing those things. Believe you me, I see finally that this is sort of at least percolating in, as an initial idea in the last 10, 20 years. And it's great to see that. But one needs to continue and continue. Look, as you know, there's been a great deal of revelations in the last 5 years since Mr. Trump ran, and then, of course, the pandemic. Yeah, but there's also been deluges of fear porn. That's not good. Right. So as much as there's an awakening, I've been drugged with the fear porn until my hope, my morale is in the gutter. Is that anything positive? You see, so there's positives and negatives. And there's many people who've done it without even knowing they're doing it. They actually have 90-minute podcasts full of fear porn, and then at the end go, "Hey guys, nothing to worry about. Everything's all right. Cheers."
Yep.
No. You don't even hear yourselves, right? I mean, you know what I mean? So there can be positives and negatives. People out there teaching who have no emotional intelligence. People out there teaching who have no psychic sovereignty. People out there teaching who mean well, but they're not able to really observe themselves and some of the bunk that they're talking, the contradictions. So there must be self-work, right? As well as, trying to reach out, say, to the masses. But not a slogan where I'm reaching out to the masses, but I'm some Joe Rogan thickhead, or some, well, I don't want to mention others, but, they're basically unworked people, but they've written the motto, I'm serving mankind, and somehow then the waves part for them. And that's what they, everybody goes, great, you're the greatest, give you awards, Nobel Prizes and shit like that. When actually, no, you may be retarding. So I have a lot of criticism against a lot of the people that came out during the brief period, and they were just spewing. And some of these are very eminent people, spewing fear porn from morning to night. I mean, I thought you're 70 years old. You're in this movement. You've been around for a long time, and you keep quoting these credentials. Yet you're doing one of the worst things to break people's morale right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, so I'm different. I'm not quite ever go along with whatever trend it is, even some sort of a alternative trend. I see the flaws in it all too quickly. Big picture,
we're talking, breaking it down. This is good versus evil. Freedom is the journey. It's there's layers to it, and it totally begins in the mind. It begins with assessing our rigid belief systems, I think, because it's those that keep you held back in various ways from accepting new information, assimilating new information that might not be so tasty, but at the same time can lead you to a better place, a bigger understanding. Fear, if you ask me, is kind of the opposite of freedom. It's like an energetic shell around the person, which keeps them from feeling free or experiencing absolute freedom. And as a kind of a shout out to one of your slogans, zero tolerance for the lie. Again, I said this last time, that motto, that just has always stuck with me and has empowered me in certain moments in crazy times in my life to say, hey, no, we really, I'm going to push against this. I'm going to push against some of these things that we as Americans have been conditioned to kind of just gloss over us at times. And I want to kind of commend you on that phrase and whatnot, because it seems to be that fearlessness and really it's like you're putting up a shell between you and bullshit. You have to have your bullshit detector cranked to 10, and maybe more so as time goes on here. But is there a relationship there between fear and freedom? And if so, are they warring energies? And if so, is this part of the design, in your opinion, is part of the design of being human, being a spiritual entity in a body on earth? And the reason why I want to kind of get your view on this, it's like we're stuck in a war of worldviews, but at the same time, that's part of the growth process. Like, that's part of the experience. And do we ever win? Is there ever a way to win this war, or is it simply about you as an individual winning it internally and not so much assigning yourself to a team and all this? I mean, because some people break down today's issues with, oh yeah, are you on team freedom or team fear? And there's kind of this language about this war that's going on. How much of this is good for us in that sense, and leads to some kind of freedom in the spirit, freedom in the soul, and peace of mind? Because it seems like there's this, and I know I'm ranting here, but I'm trying to really paint this out here. There's this horrible feeling that I think people who are in the freedom category have, that's like, how are we ever going to slay this beast? Or will the beast never be slayed? And it's all about keeping it in a cage. And I know that's a weird, crazy rant, but I think you understand what I'm getting at here. How much of this is really meant to be in our hands versus just part of a process of humanity, and it's cyclical and all this?
Oh, it's meant to be, obviously, but what people don't get is that there's a freedom of the individual and a freedom then in a different category. Like culturally, they think it's the same. It's not. The attitudinal freedom I talk about, and what you just said there, the no tolerance for the lie can even be further broken down. And it's just, say no.
Yeah.
Right. You can say no, and you have the freedom to say no. You've also got the freedom to fail. You get the freedom to succeed. You get the freedom to be your own man, or you can be a slave to somebody, right? So freedom is freedom is connected to fear, because you can always be free to be in fear. Freedom underlies all emotion, all states of consciousness. Well, in fact, consciousness itself would be unthinkable without freedom. So in that simple word, you wouldn't believe how much is actually philosophically sort of implied, because then it implies something even about God or spirit. The great champions of spirit, of freedom, also were trying to give you a insight into the nature of spirit itself, that in the very fact that you can turn from spirit, you have the freedom to do so, or you can turn toward it, you have the freedom to do so. You can live a life in total ignorance based on freedom. So I always put it simply, and that is, you have the freedom to remain an idiot. You have the freedom to do evil deeds. You have the freedom to not work on yourself. Like we said, physical health, hey, what does Dr. Reich say? What does, Arthur Yanov say? You have the freedom to totally ignore it. You have the freedom to deny it, or you have the freedom to work with it. So freedom is one of the problems, actually, because the evil has far ahead than you are. Evil doesn't see itself as evil. It just says, I have the freedom to choose this mode. I want to control horses when I drive a carriage. Well, I got to fucking control a bunch of slaves when I need, whatever they're going to do, build my castle, bring my food for me, fight my wars for me. So, and then the monkeys' asses who are turning up, they're free to go and die in that war, right? They're free to line up and say, yeah, boss, tell us what you want. Who do you want killed? Who do you want, assassinated, right? So freedom is a very peculiar thing. And we're not even close yet, to understanding some of its lineaments, especially the ones that are more philosophical. If we were, then each individual would have already contemplated in their own lives what freedom is for them, and we wouldn't even have half the problems, because in respect of freedom and bowing every day and lighting a candle to freedom, we would be completely transformed beings. There is an essence of the spirit that allows us to do everything against the spirit. There's an essence of morality that allows us to do the opposite of what is virtuous. I can literally live in my own body and never listen one day to my own conscience, but only listen to the crowd, which is the superego in my head, or other directives. Wow, that's really something. Who has lit a candle for that? Who ever contemplates that? Who makes that their God? Nobody, right? So we're already by default, sloshing around in the swamps of life, worshiping idols. You're not even worshiping the thing that is the most divine and the most scintillating of all things.
When you look at the big picture and everything just unraveling, I mean, to act as a timestamp, like here we are, early May, coming up to mid-May, you got the SCOTUS leak, basically just showing how fucked up our highest court in the land is, or how subverted it is, and how these things can just come on out, whether it's operative and led or not. Then you have the economy is just in the craziest place. People are starting to smell what might be coming around the corner here. The Ukraine-Russia thing, I think Putin just the other day said it was a success. Our mission in Ukraine was a success. Like, we're good. Like, whatever, maybe just saying that. But when you look at all of this stuff playing out, it feels to the awakened mind, I would argue, oh my God, Biden and just his redonkulous attitude, how weird he is on screen, and all the bumbly gaffes and all this stuff. The 2000 Mules documentary coming out with the election fraud. This feels and appears to be a stage, a movie, theater. It appears to have, again, like it's like a screen. I mean, not only are you watching the screen of your TV, your computer, your phone, or whatever, and you're seeing the world through that lens, and then you go one layer deeper. And if these events are actually transpiring organically the way that they appear to be, it seems even more surreal at times. Do you believe, or do you feel that this is only going to get stranger and stranger, and that we're basically creating a Twilight Zone type of experience that's going to birth something on planet Earth? How do you see this playing out, man? Because I don't know who else to ask other than you, but like, I almost struggle trying to explain to people what I think's going on, because to me it appears too surreal sometimes. What are your thoughts on just the craziness, the surrealness, and all that, and what the hell's going on?
Well, you get this. I get it in clients' charts where something is making their life seem very surreal. And the trouble is that they're not able to go with it, because, of course, the programming from schools and what they think they've seen with their parents is very organized and thought out. And so they may not be able to handle that. They may not even be able to see that, no, can't you realize that a time may come where you lose the thread and you have to go in the dark and all. And this can happen to a culture. The great Oswald Spengler, one of the first, he wasn't the first, but one of the first persons to question whether even whole civilizations go in epochs. He kind of knew this, that there's a winter cycle. Take 1,000 years. And it is the kind of time span he spoke of. Within that, you've got about 200, you got 4 200-year periods. Can go a bit more, can be a little less. But 250, 204 cycles: summer, autumn, winter, and spring. He broke it down like that. And you had others who had spoken like this before. So America is really at that 250 mark. And obviously there's going to be a shift. So what happens is that sometimes that 250 years is the build up to the culture. And then the rest is just this kind of, even if it lasts in a kind of ossified, perpetual zombie state. This is basically what Spengler was talking about. And it can actually go on for 1,000 years, like some of these movies show you. And one of the ways that then it happened, when you talk about becoming surreal, yeah, we could all end up living in a fucking dome. There's some of these future primitive motherfuckers out there that want that as well. They just want to decorate it for you by telling you that everything is going to be push button and wonderful. Like, you could exist in a place like that, or there's even people who believe we're going to live on other planets tomorrow because they'll find the technology. 6 months away from this earth and we're done. We're worse than zombies because there's an old ancestral connection between us and the earth, right? Well, you can spend billions, or no, you can have billionaires who solicit that idea and they're the billionaires. They don't know about the umbilical connection we have to our own earth. You ain't going to be able to live on Mars. You ain't going to be able to live on Saturn. Forget it. You can live on a satellite more than 6 months to break down mentally that you couldn't understand. I mean, we're paying these men for that, right? So that's fucking surreal. So and on it goes. You can find all the stupid neo-materialism and just junky ideas within the most highest brow penthouse theories, right? But in a person's individual chart, you see this, that times come where they're surreal. So, as I said, say that one phase of America is, sort of in a Spenglerian way, is actually coming to an end. Yes, there'll be this muddle. The Native American Indian Hopis call it Koyanitskatsi. When the lie has so lived out its lie, when the injustice is so extreme that it's like off the fucking charts, and when the corruption is just beyond corruption that anybody could, obviously the society will decay. Whether you're of the school where Spengler said that will happen, but then something new buds out of it, and I'm a big believer in that, because that's part of the natural cycle, isn't it? The winter cycle ends the particular cycle, and then guess what? Something buds that never could have been thought of. And also, if you look back in history, you also see this as well. When there was a decay, where the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, and these were magnificent during their heyday, but then something else came out of it. So there's people, who talk about the end of history. There's people who talk about that. But really, the way to look at it is that everything, if it's to be organic, does have an ending as much as it has a beginning. So that shouldn't come as any surprise, whether it's in economic terms or it's in cultural terms. No, look, it's going to end. Even in a subculture. Punk came and went. Breakdancing came and went. Skateboarding came and went. Disco came and went, and on and on and on. And sometimes it comes and goes as faster than you can think if you cast your mind back. So although, you see, the strange thing about it is the surrealness is that which percolates into our structure. We create a structure by which everything should be organized, even our watch. Look at this whole podcast we're doing. It's timed, it's going to end at a certain point. So everything in the day, the shopping list, the honey-do list, the political honey-do lists and all that is all timed. But time is an illusion in one sense. So we have created that structure, or at least our kind of time, this very formal time, is, don't want to get into all the philosophical, it's ontic time, is basically a construct. It's what the Germans call a Gestell. It's just a framework over in which we live. But every now and again, you see, the grass comes through the cracks. The mystery, so to speak, will permeate into our structured, organized life. And that's the mystery. That's what makes it feel somewhat surreal, because there really is two brains, two realities. And sometimes they interchange, or the wall between them gets really thin, or people just want to go and watch something about ancient aliens. They are interested in the mystery. And so we force it that, what do you think people take, drugs even. So there's positives and negatives to this, where people do get tired with, the functional, authoritarian, everydayness of things. And then they try themselves to move a little bit, to the periphery, to the edge, which of course we know can have dangers. There can be casualties. But we should accept that in cultural and scientific, look at science alone. You've only invented something, and the next thing you've updated it. Look at the net. Hasn't that taught us that?
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at the situation with China. They're stealing every technological invention that they possibly can. Yeah, the moment they run down the street where they're going, great, another big theft here, and they try to implement it, it's already changed over in America. So, yeah, good luck with your thievery, you bastards, right? We're going to beat you anyway, because that thing is redundant 5 seconds after you've installed it. So in a way, right, there's a little hidden thread of glory there, right? But again, the same, it's just this extreme redundancy of whatever there is. Truth, freedom, these are absolutes. even time is, by the way, because no matter where you go to the universe, whether it shrinks down or goes faster, are Einstein's theories. Yeah, but you still are talking about the phenomenon of time, right? Well, yeah, I guess we are. Right. So it's absolute. It can go fast, it can go slow, and all in between. It's still there as a thing called time. So we have these absolutes. Thinking is an absolute. There's nothing relative about it. The relativity is there as part of the effervescence of an absolute. But to have a bunch of philosophers, deconstruct that, it's just nothing but relativity. Yeah, according to you, mate. But, we know something more. Empathy is absolute. Beauty, we couldn't live in a gray goo. Right. And so is thought. You couldn't exist without thought. The very things we're doing right now to even question what are the problems in life or what might be the solutions requires an absolute called thinking. Try to tell me how, so we've been so brainwashed by these deconstructionists and all of their brew, whether it's pluralists talking about multiculture and you have to love every culture except your own. Only one culture in the world cannot love itself and all the other shit. But we have the freedom to buy into it. So to circle back to where you were talking, we have the freedom to buy that shit. We get the freedom to open our borders. We get the freedom to bankrupt ourselves and kill ourselves in the name of some foreign religion or whatever it might be. Yep, you do. So it's an abuse of the essence. How do you think the essence will respond if we continually abuse it? So the deeper, sort of fundamental thing here is when you're handed a beautiful thing, when you're handed a true natural religion, when you're handed something that's absolutely the heart of spirit, how do you treat it? And if you treat it in a completely despicable way, am I wrong to say that you'll be hit back for that? And your culture will go into fucking decline and your children will be uneducated and the government will be corrupt? So don't look to politics. That's only emanation. That's only the symptom of a much deeper spiritual, lethargy or pestilence that is not being addressed because you need to go to psychology to address it.
The times that we're in, obviously testing everybody's patience, their mental capacity, emotional spectrums, etc. We're all in various flux with just personal trials here and there. It's a wild journey for everyone. On the side, I'll just call them the right for now, a lot of folks that are a little more hip to the scams, a little more hip to the corruption, and trying to work out the kinks to restore some of the common sense and whatnot. There's been an enormous revival in Christianity, I would say. I've seen a lot of people go from I won't say 0 to 100, but I'd say I've seen a lot of people find faith again, find God, revisit the Bible, join churches. Even myself, because I was raised Lutheran, fell away really hardcore, and then kind of developed my own personal experiences, my own spirituality. I've come to see so many things that were taught to me in the beginning of my life that are actually really important guides at the moment, or appear to be for me. Do you see, like, it's not about being cynical and worried about what might be coming in the future, but do you think it's important to trust in where you will be at the right time in the right place to wade through all of this? Or is the idea of having faith and just kind of trusting in the process, is that because though it might be rooted in religion and religion has its flaws, is that a negative thing? Is that a bad thing? Because you're kind of giving away some power. You're leaving it up to natural things. And I do see this trap on the right where there's either the real cynical black pill type of thinking where, it's all fucked up. It's, screw it all. We're just going to drink beer till we're dead. Okay. And then there's the, no, like, I actually have faith. I think God's going to do something. And they're basically ready for miracles at any moment to transpire. Is that a disempowering way of thinking? How open to all possibility do you suggest we be? Because at this point, people like us who have seen the ins and outs of the conspiracy world, I mean, literally, aliens could land and come on out and say, yo, you fucked up your planet, we're taking over. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we wouldn't be surprised. We could have a monster like Godzilla emerge from under the ocean, come up onto a beach, start destroying cities, and be like, oh, yeah, the CIA had that thing in the ocean, and there it is. We wouldn't be surprised. You know what I mean? So how do we reconcile something? Like, is there going to be like a Christian revival on this planet? Does that tie into the freedom movement, the Great Awakening, or is that almost a trap as well? And I know that's will offend possibly people, but this is getting to the real nuts and bolts core of it. I've often argued when it comes to belief systems and religions and spiritual, in your philosophy, I've always asked people, hey, it's all good what you believe, but does what you believe empower you or disempower you? Does it give you freedom to do what you want to do with your life? Or does it hold you back in certain ways? What are your thoughts on the right, on the people that are actually hip to this, and are they entering any traps that may, whether they're set by the bad guys or not, doesn't really matter. But are they becoming truly free when they're waiting for a savior? That's a deep one. No one's gonna get me in trouble.
No, that's well put, because, again, you see, it's very likely that a monster comes from beneath the water, or more likely UFOs appear in the sky. They're working on hologram theory like that you cannot, not theory, but the science of, like you cannot believe.
Oh,
and when they perfect it, you will not be able to frickin' tell if a movie like, War of the Worlds is not taking place in your village, happening somewhere now. The mass, right. And even if you worked it out, the rest of the chumps in your village, in your town, ain't going to work it out. To them, it's really happening. Oh, my God. And the panic and the fear will drive them fucking insane. And they'll be trying to shoot their 45s at something that's going to zap them with a fucking laser, right? I mean, or some ELF waves. That is actually happening. And I'm a big believer that that's going to happen. That's one of the potentials. Because remember the fear? We talked about how do you generate fear? My God, they can do it easily. They can do it. They can even generate fear without an apparition optically. They can just do it by sonic means.
Yes.
And suddenly you're drenched in fear and you're paranoid and you're strangling your neighbor.
Oh, my God.
So right, left, that's already bogus. There's no true conservative movement in America or the world right now. None. If there was, we wouldn't be in this problem. Conservatism has backed off so much that it's a laugh to me what people describe as right wing and right wing and conservative. Yeah, when you find it, point it out, right? What the hell? We have not learned from other races about how they are so, collectivized and strong and how they do everything right for themselves. We've learned nothing from that. So, we're wide open. And the word conservative is about the most bankrupt term anyone could imagine. I like what I saw when Mr. Trump came in, back that to the hilt. Yeah, but then, things have happened there. So there's that. But again, in terms of culture, the danger is there that it's like Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, look, I don't go out to kill and eat, cut my own meat. The butcher does it. I don't build my own house. The builders do it. So I compromise a little bit of my own freedom to be in culture.
Right.
You see, so it's a bit of a give and take is what his whole point. And everybody agreed. Everyone, that's absolutely true. And there's times when that might shrink a little bit, where you have to go kill meat, or you have to do a little bit more than you ever bargained for in society. But basically, most of it stays the same. It's going to move, right? And at times of war, we know that. During times of great devastation, like you had in Germany, when the Allies bombed the hell out of the place, people now realized, oh my God, I got to go and fend for myself. And for a few years, they had to do that. It was terribly painful. America came out of the war richer, both wars richer. They came in very late to the wars to help, and then their presence was decisive. And then when they went back, they turned out to be far richer than they went in, and even countries like England owed them a huge debt and stuff. But at the same time, then you broke what was called the non-intervention pact that had been America's long-standing belief. It was really FDR who knocked it on the head. the idea that we're not going to get ourselves involved in local politics and European politics or European conflicts. Those conflicts are far older than America even exists, more than 100 years, 200 years. We're not going to get involved in it. Let them work it out. We did good by getting away from the aristocratic plutocracies there. And we need plenty of time, hundreds of years, not 200, hundreds of years to get it right in this gigantic country we just colonized. So who's this FDR who goes, no, you're not. I'm going to sink the Lusitania, or, and if it wasn't that, it would have been something else to try and get us embroiled in foreign wars. So America's already derailed from that point. And if you read my Constitution Con article, you'll see other areas where it was derailed. The Constitution is not what it appears to be, folks. This is all parchment idolatry. It has some good aspects in it, and they could have been bolstered. But don't you see right now, let me give you an example of 2008, how great your fucking Constitution is. In 2008, there's no regulation to tell the super banks not to be lending money at a phenomenal rate so that every juju cave-crawling fool can borrow money, buy a house, and then not pay it back.
Yep.
You get all these protections in the whole of America. And even after the Constitution and Bill of Rights, you've got 100 years or more where those rules could have been put in, but no bank is controlled. They can lend at will. Great Constitution you got there. Where is the one rule that these great founding fathers, that is just light beaming from their heads and everybody worshiping them? A simple rule to stop a bank, put a bloody limit on to whom they can lend to and how much they can lend. So the buyer, the lender often destroyed their own banks, and the person who's borrowing the money destroyed their own lives, because they didn't just buy one house, did they? They couldn't even pay that back. No, they're out there, spending money on more houses and more cars and send the kid to Harvard now. Who's going to pay all that back money? That is recent history. Right. So I ask, where's the government structure? You got laws beyond all belief. Keep off the grass. You got laws in America that are so voluminous, but you don't have a law to stop the merchant banks funding the other bank to say, lend as much as you can. We know we're going to pull up the ladder. And even the analysts, here's a final point on that, the analysts today that will concede that this happened, and you get them in Britain, you get them in America, never mention conspiracy. So even when you're addressing this obvious fucking conspiracy, because no bank is going to lend you umpteen amount of money at such low interest rates without direction from the black nobility up there. But no, we can't talk about that. That's all G. Edward Griffin stuff. You're a conspiracy nut. So look, if your analysts today who broach this subject are so scared, right, and beta, to not even say, well, this of course was organized from upstairs, because your bank doesn't function without the merchant bank behind it, who don't function behind Lord fucking Rothschild behind them, and then on and on away up a ladder. So if nobody mentions that except a few conspiracy guys, how can you expect change and reform? So what I mean by that is, always know thine enemy, always study them. So as long as you're studying them, you're on your way, and then you don't really have to, be worried about, these questions you asked. If you are diligently reading the masters, because remember, there was for everything that ever happened, there's a guy who already came up with a conclusion. Where economically, you have Hayek, you have Mises Institute, you have Ayn fucking Rand. Get government out of economics. Get government out of economics. Oh, well, she's a fucking Jew. Sure, fuck it. What's that? Oh, she's a woman. Yes, quite correct. Are you going to put the salve on the bleeding fucking wound, or are you going to worry about whether it's got 10 toes in each foot? Even if it's got 15 toes in each foot, give me the fucking Band-Aid, I'm dying here. Right? No, America couldn't get around it. Censor her. She's this, she's that. Look, dude, then die. Then fucking die. Perish. And come back to me tomorrow and say, well, things are a bit bad there. Have you any solutions? You see, cut to the quick. If you don't want to listen to the men and women who gave you the fucking answers and gave you them in the most beautiful, elegant style, perish. Let the beast just fucking tear you to pieces, and then you'll come back in a more humble state. And that's what I see happening in America now. You're right, it's fucking surreal, because the lie can only live forever before you're choking on it.
Amen. It's interesting what you said about the conservative movement, and I agree 100%. It's like left, right. They're all a joke, especially our politicians on the right. And to the audience out there, I encourage you. It's critical, especially if you do, if you want to vote, you want to do your part. We have to find if you want to vote conservative, right? We got to get the right people into positions, state, local, all the way up the chain, that are, as you know, truly going to uphold the Constitution and would hold accountable a lot of these higher criminals, some of these high crimes, because we really don't have true conservatism on the spectrum. It's very hard to find even some of the biggest names, I would argue, that have led in the last couple of years have led the MAGA crowd and your freedom fighters. A lot of these big names they're just not cutting to the core problem. They're not talking about the fraudulent Federal Reserve. They're not talking about the corrupt beginnings of our nation and the secret societies that have, you know, put their fingers in the pot since day one. I mean, really, and that is what separates the boys from the men, if you ask me. Whenever I talk about politics, and in Wisconsin, we have so much drama here where it's like people are trying to figure out which Republican. It's like this, you know, there's only a few that are even broaching some of these extremely important issues. I want to pivot one more time to something kind of grand scale here, something kind of big. You have quite the history or quite the background in astrology, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with your understanding, and this is a big one, we only have so much time, obviously, but in the world of astrology, I'm curious from you. I want to hear your side of it. There are so many people today that laugh off astrology. They laugh at it because it's horoscopes, and there's the newspaper horoscopes, and there's 100,000 self-declared astrologists out there that are coming out with them. You know, this is what's in store this week for Virgo. Click on my channel, give me money, and whatnot. So I would argue, and I've seen people argue, that astrology's kind of got a bad rap. However, in my research of my life, astrology, the study of the stars and movement of celestial bodies, and of course, it ties into astrotheology. It ties into our psychology. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where has the study of astrology gone off the rails? You know, who might be responsible for that? And why should we have maybe given a little more attention to the movement of celestial bodies? My one little thing that I say about it, having zero expertise, is that I look at the world as one thing. Boy, oh boy, it wouldn't be an SOMTV production without some type of random technical glitch. My microphone went out, but that's okay. I was just ranting and raving, trying to form a question about astrology, his view on things happening today and how that might relate to astrology with his extensive background in the field. And he does a great job of just chiming right in, so I'm going to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. See, every astrologer should be always skeptical about their art. You know, it's a healthy thing to do that. I believe in astrology, and every new year, this year, last year, you know, whether you've been studying it since 80s like I have, I'm surprised every new discovery. We have lots of astrologers on. We just had one on enslaved last week. I'm continually, you know, upgrading my knowledge about it and learning and being more, shocked how accurate it is. So I'm convinced beyond all doubt. Then you have to look for the science, you know, the implicate order of David Bohm, the holographic theory, Gaia theory, right? You start to look into the theories, or Carl Jung's work is assistive in that, not by any means conclusive, you know, with his work on synchronicity and other things. But, and even when I say it came to something like the tarot cards, which I know probably even better than, you know, astrology, so to speak, because I have my own totally different miscellaneous kind of astrology, but the undergirding, you know, aspects are very similar. So yes, you can talk generally. So then you start finding about the nature of consciousness, and that consciousness is divided into 12 parts, or for short, 3 and 4. You know, you actually discover these things. If that sounds obscure to people, just get out a picture of Adam, Vitruvius's Adam, you know, painted by Leonardo da Vinci. And he got that from a previous magician called Agrippa, Cornelius Agrippa, you know, the man who's spread out his arms. You've seen that picture, right? Adam Kadmon is the anthropos. Your body is based precisely on the Fibonacci series, or let's call it the golden section, the golden mean, the golden section, you know, square root of 3, all of that, and the phi ratio. So your own physicality is based on the harmony of the universe. But that harmony of the universe is also a moral structure. It affects you within. So now the superego and the conscience is aligned with the moral universe. The superego is aligned to the human universe, meaning the human culture. And so everybody is divided within morally. That's what partly that Vitruvian man represents, is a sort of a divisiveness of, and that works on many levels, from biology to psychology, right? As you said. So what do? I'm a bivalent being. There's a constant opposition or conflict within myself. So the way to approach astrology is very, very important. So rather than thinking, it's going to tell me when I'm going to get a raise at work or find my soulmate or whatever fucking shit, most of the people come to you for that. No, you've got to look at it as one of the great mystical arts. And that's why my Taroscopic Mystery School exists. And that's how I approach it. It's a hermetic art. It's very much about the individual against society. How can you dig deep into, the fool carries his little bag. How can you know what's in your little bag? That might be the most precious things to make you really successful. But what do you know you've got in there? Are your aptitudes, are your skills, and maybe something even, given by the mysterious divine force to you that's really going to help you develop your character, your temperament. So I keep that in mind. And a lot of the work I've done on Unslaved, there's more to come, but all of my work on astrology is based on that. In fact, I even have this thing called the inner zodiac concept, that where astrologers are already fucking beating a dead horse when they talk about, magic rays coming down from the stars, or rocks in space. I mean, I'm not against it. There could be something to do with the light. There could be, but really it's the flimsiest thing you've ever heard of. I actually think there's more chance of the symbols, when you write them on a page, affecting you. I actually mean that. I think the actual symbols and the shapes of them might be a better candidate for why, astrology works than this bizarre concept that external hunks of rock have anything to do with your personal destiny. I mean, that's never sat right with me. And back in 1989, when I started really questioning it, that was what was on my mind. Whether I've actually answered my system, is anyone's guess. I think I've done all right. It comes out much better, right, to talk about the inner zodiac. But the idea is that, it definitely works, because as long as you keep certain things in mind, and I've reinforced my system of astrology by bringing Kabbalah, bringing in numerology, and bringing in the tarot to make a very robust hermetic system again, because I believe that if you're only studying one of those subjects, like in this case, astrology, you're not going to get very far. You certainly won't get any proofs of it, like you were asking, and you won't really get far in a lot of other areas. I don't even think, because the symbols are minor. Right? The divine force speaks to us in symbolism. Well, tarot or astrology, take your pick. Which one has more of the symbols in it? Therefore, which one will be more open, to the spirit? Astrology's got a few symbols and the 9 planets, and that's about it. Okay, great. The 12 signs or whatever. But look, come on. The tarot's got 78 cards. And there's all these weird, brilliant connections, between the tarot and the astrology, which I've cleaned up. All the other systems out there have still got an arse about face. My system is a pure system that shows you the exact connections, and I mean exact connections between tarot cards and astrology, the signs of the zodiac and all that. Well, and then when you bring in numerology and you bring in, say, Kabbalah, that kind of thing, then you have a very robust, strong system that now works with checks and balances. And your knowledge just goes through the roof. But more importantly, if it is a question of an inner zodiac, then you need to rectify astrology so that it takes that on board, which I'm the only system that does that. Because if I'm right, then by not doing so, you lose out on the whole essence. You lose out of the inner oracle speaking to you. Could that be one of the reasons why everybody's life is in chaos and the way the world is? Because the very oracle you should be listening to, you're not, because you've forgotten that these royal keys, I call them keys of decipherment. And you're externalized looking to, the planets. It's not as strong as it appears to be. You can make it better. I mean, the whole idea was that Jungian astrology was meant to make you understand that planets represent inner archetypes, and I'm totally along with that. That's a good step in the right direction. Absolutely, that's a good step in the right direction. But people don't know really as much about the Jungian system as they pretend. All these astrologers that talk about, I'm a Jungian astrologer, or I'm an archetypal astrologer, and then you ask them a few questions about any of Jung's work, and it's like fucking shit. They're way off. You go, oh dear, I think we got some more, 1-800 number lines and all this. That's badly inaccurate. So we have that problem, and I try to correct that too. The archetypes work in ways that I'm afraid you don't really get that clearly explained, by the ones I've seen anyway. The ones who claim to be into Jungian astrology or archetypal astrology is just really poor. Oh my God, it's poor. So yeah, we've been trying to work on that on Unslaved, and in my work in general, I try to rectify that, because there's great secrets in that as well. But unfortunately, either because people are hurrying or they're reading some spinner rack shit, there's still a lot to be done there.
Is Earth a school? I want to end with this one. I mean, I mentioned it a little bit earlier. It's like if you're born on Earth in this time, let alone the past, but let's just focus on now. And I've often heard the theory that with reincarnation, everyone who has lived before is alive again right now on Earth, probably in America. Nah, whatever. The big names are in America. Maybe, but we can't, who the hell knows, right? But we've heard this several times, many times, that we're basically in some kind of school for souls or spirit, or whatever you want to call it, spiritual development. And there's so many classes you can sign up for, to put it in a metaphor. You can dive into studying history. You can dive into studying arts and music and whatnot. You can dive into astrology, and each one of these can be something that grabs you by your hair for the rest of your life. Do you often feel, and we'll wrap up kind of on this note, but do you often feel like we're in kind of a school type situation for minds, and even if we do see through all of the garbage, lies, the propaganda and so on of the culture we've created, we're still just infants amongst the grand scheme of things. What's your perspective on that? And is there graduation coming up?
Yeah, I think that's true. I'm a big believer in that, because obviously we have old souls around us. I wouldn't be who I was if I didn't meet some of these old souls and stuff. So there's no doubt in my mind that is the case. There's definitely is a school, house of life, school of life, whatever you want to call it. And that the process of individuation. So just in psychological terms. So just like a child is born in a completely primitive state to that degree, but there's still communication going on even from the womb onwards, and then the next and the next and the next after birth. So do all of us move. And another one proof I've often used to prove this is, why is there so much fucking resistance out there? The very resistance proves there's something. Even if you're stuck, that proves there's progress. The philosopher Hegel often said, if I come up against a fence, if I come upon a wall, I know there must be something on the other side of the wall. And that thing on the other side of the wall must be even more expansive than this little ring in which I'm caught. So the limit speaks of the unlimited, the limitless. And I'm a big believer in that. So although you are the one who's going to walk the road, like the fool, and it's true to say that every step you take is making the road, like it's not necessarily predetermined. There's something inherent about your walk and the why of your walk and how you wish it to be. Definitely must be factored in here. There's a lot of that. The road is as you are, let's make that clear. But nevertheless, it doesn't destroy the concept of a progress, because as Steiner, as others have shown, look, take the Chariot card. There he is, and he's doing exactly what we're doing, setting out. So there must be a road in front of him to set out. But as soon as he set out, the two horses or the sphinxes are pulling in different directions. There's that dyad I talked about. One is the road of, no, we're going back. And the other horses go, no, we'll go forward. So already you have this, contraction and expansion number going on. And the man in the chariot has to sort of find some unity there to say, look, I don't want to go so far out that I lose my roots, which is, the philosophical way to look at it. But I don't also want to stay so close to home that I know nothing about the world. And in doing so, through the world, know about myself. So there's always going to be, so the insane man is not able to find a reconciliation between these two very opposing forces. If you examine your life very closely, it'll always be about these two opposing forces, in one way or another. And the sane man finds the harmony. But that harmony is not guaranteed. If you find it once, you'll need it again at the next horizon. It's something, then you need fortitude, because you find a working harmony to get down the road. But that nightmare is going to return again at every new challenge. You go, yeah, I just want to go back. Forget it. Oh, my. No, let's go forward. See, so there's always going to be this contraction and expansion dynamic. So it's not so much about the road that lies there. It's about how you enter upon it, how you make it original to yourself. In other words, idiosyncratic. What people are doing more and more now is they're going towards what's called nomothetic, which is following everybody else, molding themselves, their personalities on what they see in the media or what they see as success. When the family says, oh, but she's fucking smarter than you. Sure, your cousin's way, way smarter than you. You know, and then you go, oh, God, all right. You know, tear them posters down from your roof. Don't be an original person. Don't look in that bag. Throw it all away. You know, you only have what we give you. You see in all of this palaver, false teachings from parents, loser parents, beta parents, adultistic freaks who just want to get they birth you because you're the crutch for them to boss around. You're the psychic crutch, or they don't get a kick out of life. They don't feel fulfilled until you are just jumping at everything they say to do. And I mean, right across the line, what you're going to eat, what you're going to dress like, what you're going to think. This is happening all over our place. But in a strange way, to back up what I was saying earlier, the obstructions in life, even if it's the Illuminati, if I find a world full of, closed doors, guards, and thou shalt nots, I would go, well, what is it that they're trying to stop me being? Right? And the same thing, if I see nothing but obstructions to the soul, I must believe in the soul. If I see obstructions to spirit and to truth, I am a bigger believer. Thank you very much for pointing out to me, what you don't want me to do, because that's exactly what I'm going to do, or what you should not believe. I will now, if not believe it, I'm going to take it more seriously, because I see that your consensus doesn't want me to think in these terms. Now, you asked her about religion earlier on. Religion is one of those impositions. It's not a way to freedom. It's a way to stop you getting to freedom, because it's all about provisos. Thou shalt not, and God doesn't like this, and God doesn't like that, right? Yeah, well, look, that's stopping me from being a free person. And when you see that freedom is under attack, then you know the thing that you're into is false. It's really actually simple when you boil it down. Anything that violates freedom, which is the ultimate ground of all, in one way it's paradoxical, because didn't I get the freedom to believe the lie that is, in this case, Christianity? So freedom is there at the beginning and the end, because I'm free to buy the lie of it, right? So when you said about all the different schools and all the different things one can get into, metaphorically, you're right. That is called exploring your freedom. We have so much out there because freedom wants us to understand it. Freedom wants us to walk with it, savor it, sit down and drink with me. So why don't you become a Jehovah's Witness? Why don't you go and find out what those fuckers are doing? Why don't you go over here to become a Buddhist and a Muslim, right? And I've done this in my life. I've gone through tons and tons of things. I didn't realize at the time that I'm walking with freedom as it opens doors for me in order to understand what? Not Islam, not Buddhism, freedom. Freedom is my companion. Freedom is saying, by all means, go read this, get into that. So this is again a proof of freedom. We could talk about. I've written an essay, an article called "Freedom of Man." It's on the same Michael Tsarion site if people want a primer on that. But see, where are our altars to freedom? Every demagogue, every tyrannous system has an altar to it. We love it. We love the chains, as long as they're of gold, not of iron. But hell, there's even some people out there who say, "Oh, just give me the chains of iron," and we will. Go live in Russia, go live in, China. You can have plenty of chains of iron. So, or we're living in the West, we got chains of gold. Isn't it brilliant? But I would say, but they're all chains. Yeah, shut up. No, they're all chains. You're not going to chain me in any way, right? So this is the fallout, where the real presence of divinity that we should be worshiping are thrown into the gutter. The czar's wine. Haven't you got any Pepsi? Well, we got loads of it, so you're welcome to the right place here, mate, But the czar's wine is thrown into the ditch over the wall. Yeah, what the fuck? Yeah, stinks. So, choice. We're in a lot of the messes we're in, but not because of an imposition. That's what everybody else in the conspiracy movement believes. We're there because in some level we want it. In some level we've encouraged it. In some level we voted for it. In some level, as I say, we haven't listened to the wise ones of the past to be able to apply solves, that just, oh my God, solve the whole bloody problem. And there's so many of those economically, like a couple of men I mentioned, Ayn Rand as well. So if I could put her books separate government from economics in the hands of every single person that lived. We got a solution there. So I'm never a pessimist, and only for this one reason. And it's because all of the different thinkers and teachers we've had in history have already solved every problem we could have or even could face. Just because we think we're in this technological sort of utopia, look, that doesn't make a difference. That does not make a difference. The solutions to how to live, are there. And therefore, the real schooling, if you went to a college or school, is where all of those thinkers would be presented to you. None of them would be shadow banned. Because I'm learning from. See, today you're learning from a bunch of postmodernists who will die. Their system will be totally corrupted in seconds if you were to teach, X, Y, and Z. The thinkers that I bring to my work, you can't teach those in school anymore because they would fail. People would immediately see, but wait a minute, this guy is undoing the very essence of your relativism. Oh, yeah, he is. So what do? Scrub it from the curriculum. Get rid of all of those people, and that's why education is so important, because it's bankrupt, and I'm doing shows on John Stormer, None Dare Call It Education. We have the John Taylor Gattos, in more recent times. That is got to be, on the curricula of people like ourselves, who then bring those books, quote from those books, show, how this communism and socialism and pluralism all came into America through the schools. That is got to be, up there in the curriculum that we participate in and try to get messages. Because a lot of people are not aware of how that factors in.
Michael Tsarion, it is such an honor to have you join the show, and it's just an honor to be in these trenches with you in this time. There's never enough time in the day for us to take it as far as it could go. And everyone out there, you got to check out unslaved.com, michaeltsarion.com. Again, it's impossible to condense so much discussion into a few hours of a show. Thank you so much for coming on again. And really, it's just this journey that everyone is walking. We need the light. We need to open up our eyes to that light and just see, like you said, a lot of this is self-generated. A lot of this is not because of imposition. I hope that sticks with my audience and me. I have to gut check myself on a lot of this, because I do get pissed. I do gripe on some of the corruption, the blatant violations that we deal with. And really a lot of that is generated because of our past of apathy, the past that we have, just not participating, not giving it a second thought, not challenging some of the norms, and not challenging some of the cultural, things that we see day in, day out. Same old. It will be our downfall if we're not waking up to our own power along the way. And you're a huge component of that. And it's been awesome talking to you again. Appreciate everything that you're doing, and best of luck on like you said, you're kind of expanding things. You're cranking the dial, putting the pedal to the metal, even though you already have content for years for people to chew on for years. Thank you so much again, man. Really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, mate. Yeah, same to you. Carry on the great work. It's a pleasure to be on.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Sold Out Media, soldout.tv. You guys have a wonderful day, and we'll catch you next time. Peace out.